Good morning, everybody, boys and girls of YouTube. Helen the Russian here. Carrying on with the videos I'm making this morning because I have time, because I woke up in an ungodly hour of 5 a.m., just about before the chickens. Anyhow, this video, Valentine's Day, big subject. February is, because of the Valentine's Day falls on February 14. Everybody considered the love months, and of course next week is when the Valentine's Day actually is. Okay, so I'm gonna explain why I'm cracking up. For starters, growing up in Russia, not the holiday we celebrate, meaning we didn't know anything about it, was not a thing, just really was not a thing. What we did celebrate in Russia, February 23rd, was what was called Army and Navy Day. So, for people who served in the Army and Navy, but generally we considered it like Men's Day. That's when you gave men in your life, and that means all men, your father, your grandfather, your boyfriend, your husband, your significant other male, a present, and, treated them to a dinner or whatever, because that was considered the Men's Day. And it probably had to do with the fact that in Russia it is mandatory that you served in the army as a man, not for women, but men have to serve in the army for 2 years from age 18 to age 20. So at any point, pretty much almost any male, I mean, there are exceptions for health and a few other things, but the rules are pretty rigid. You have to go and serve. So pretty much every male did serve in the Army or Navy at some point. And so, yeah, that was the holiday. And of course, March 8th is International Women's Day, and that's what was celebrated as Women's Day. That's when men brought you flowers and then presents and then took you out to dinner. So that's how we did it. No Valentine's Day. So I moved to America, and my first year here, the February 14 rocks up, and I was like, what's with all the, red hearts with chocolates and then whatnot? So people explain it to me. I go, okay. And see, there's just the thing. It's a very commercial, made-up holiday. I mean, surely most of you realize it's a construct. It's a construct built mostly by advertising companies to sell goods and services, really. Yeah, there was Saint Valentine's, but, the whole concept is, twisted to make it very commercial. To add to that, it didn't help that I worked in hospitality from the very young age, pretty much from day one since I moved to the States. So for us hospitality workers, and I was a waitress, I'm telling you, not a good day. It's the worst holiday. Absolutely worst. It's so much worse than New Year's, than Christmas, than Easter for the hospitality workers, because this holiday, again, because of the advertising agencies and retailers, put undue pressure on people, both men and women, to act a certain way, and it creates certain expectations, which in turn causes a lot of stress and awkwardness. But to meet those expectations, a lot of people do the things that they think are expected of them, of what they meant to do, or what society or what their partner expects of them, and it oftentimes turns up to such poop. So, restaurants are no exceptions. They are retailers in a way. They sell food and service of serving that food, and so they try to capitalize on that holiday just as much as everybody else. But in order for restaurant to do this, because we don't just sell food, we serve it, they try, what ends up happening, people create a special Valentine's menu, because now, honestly, because there is such a demand, especially in a particular category of restaurants. Obviously, it's not going to be like that at Denny's, but like mid-class bistro and up, the people are gonna try to book more than normal to go to take their sweetheart out to that special dinner. So the restaurants try to meet the demand. So they create a special menu, and usually to accommodate everything, all the demand, they do set menu, and they do 2 sittings. So there's early sitting and the late sitting, and they doing it again to meet the demand. but and people think, oh, how sweet, they came up with special menu. Well, I'm here to tell you, I'm a hospitality worker. Set menu makes things a lot easier for the kitchen, meaning they produce everything quicker, everything is more organized, so we can push more people through the door than what we normally would do. That's why there are two sittings. That's why it's so, but in turns it creates this very rigid situation where everything has to happen on a certain schedule. And more often than not, restaurants add more tables to accommodate more people, more than normal, meaning the space between the tables physically gets a lot smaller. And I can tell you, in one particular situation, that was one year when I lived in New Zealand. I worked for that place called the Old Church. It's American woman actually who bought literally the old church. The church wasn't functional when she bought it, meaning it was no longer a church, but it was a church building, and she turned it into a restaurant, which idea was really fun. It was a good concept because she did not have any restaurant or hospitality experience. She didn't quite pull it off. That's why she had me there trying to make it happen, but it's really hard to make it happen when, you know, the owner doesn't cooperate with you. But anyhow, so I remember that one year, she kept insisting, I kept telling her, cut off the reservations, we can't accommodate. She goes, no, we can make it. So at the end, when I tallied up the reservations, I was like, I don't know where we're going to sit all these people, even with two sittings. So she goes, well, we have plenty of furniture in the storage. And I'm like, yes, I understand that. But logistics of it, actual logistics. So I kid you not, true story. When we put all the, it took me forever to configure the floor plan of how to put all the tables in. And I managed, but the space between the tables, there were only two ways for the wait staff to go in and out to serve people. We couldn't walk around freely like we normally would. And I literally had to be very careful with whom I'm scheduling as far as staff, because you had to be skinny to get between those tables. And I'm not being dramatic or exaggerating. If you were even slightly overweight, you would be bumping guests with your behind, pardon me. So I told that to the owner. I said, look, I need to revise the schedule, and unfortunately two of our best servers, I couldn't put them on because they were girls that were pleasantly plump, let's put it that way. And I knew that it just wasn't going to happen. So, but that's to give you an idea what owners and managers of the restaurant do in order to meet the demand. And again, we talk about expectations, commercial expectations. So in and on itself, that creates a lot of stress. And stress, everything is energy, everything that goes, so it's palpable. You can feel it in the air and whatnot, no matter how much we smile and try to make it all that. And then we have to keep things moving, especially for the first sitting, because we need to clear all these people out for the second sitting. And so that creates a certain timeline that we have to meet, and we can't really be pushy, but yet at the same time, we have to keep a good pace, which will be felt. Now, all that gets complicated by people who decide that they're gonna propose during dinner, and that's a subject in and on itself, but to kind of narrow down to most common things, every time, and it happened to me a few times when people, really nervous guy comes in and he starts talking about how they usually come in advance, and or they come together with the girl and then they excuse themselves to go to the bathroom, and then they get a hold of you and go, can you put the ring in the cake or in that food so she can find it, or in the champagne flute. Very bad idea. You listen to me, people. I know it's been made into some kind of romantic gesture by movies and whatnot. Don't do it. It's really bad idea. It creates more pressure for the wait staff because we're busy as it is, and now I have your with a $5,000 rock that I need to take care of, and I'm afraid to lose it or do something with it. And also, there were quite a few cases of people choking on that ring because they don't expect it to be there, and they swallow it or choke on it, meaning things get ugly. And on the other side of that equation, a lot of girls expect that, they expect that there's going to be a proposal, when the guy really not going to. And so you can tell them like digging into the food. They try to be conspicuous about it, but they digging into the food and into the cake and like kind of looking in the champagne glass, trying to see if the ring is there, and it's not there. I've seen at least one, I can't remember now, but at least one failed proposal when the guy all went down on one knee and made this big deal, and she didn't want to. She just said, please just don't. And it was embarrassing and very awkward for everyone involved. So, yeah, bottom line of it all, that's why I laugh. Valentine's Day to me is just a funny holiday. It cracks me up. I love people watch. I'm a clinical psychologist, so I'm always interested in motivations behind people's actions. So I like to watch people. I read people pretty well, and so I can always see what's going on, the dynamics of whatnot. I can guess fairly good of what goes on behind the scenes. So they're like, to me it's very entertaining, but I know it's not sometimes very entertaining to the participants as far as what goes on between them. So all that aside, Valentine's Day marks, thankfully, the end of what's referred to often as a cuffing season. Is when people feel pressure to be coupled up or to take their relationship to the next level and whatnot. I talked about it before. Don't put that kind of pressure on yourself. Don't set expectations in your head, never mind verbally to another person, but in your head. Don't set any kind of timelines. Everything progresses the way it should. Universe is looking after us. There is a plan for everything, and if you first and foremost create a good relationship with yourself, make sure you're well grounded, you're well balanced, that you're okay with yourself, and then everything will just fall into place without you having to force it. Because every time you force things or you try to manipulate situations so you can get the result that you think you really want and you think will make you happy, it doesn't end up working out like that. It just never does. And as a consumer, if you are a consumer who is planning to do all that, my advice is, obviously in some situations it is what it is. Like for instance, you are expected to take your significant other out, otherwise they're going to be held to pay or whatever. And I get it, that it's not the time to redo the whole dynamic of relationship in Valentine's week. You should have been doing and building that foundation before. But if it's the case, my advice is aim. I know it's going to cost you a pretty penny, but it's going to be so much less stressful and so much more pleasant. Aim for genuine 5-star, because genuine, true high-end establishments, they never would do what I just described. They just won't do it. It's not, they maintain high standard at all times. So there are several places in Las Vegas. The one I can think of the top of my head is Picasso at the Bellagio, excellent choice. Wingley at the Wynn. There are others, but this should give you an idea of the caliber of establishment I talk about. It will be genuinely nice experience. Like I said, it's gonna cost you money, but what's your well-being, what's your peace of mind worth? Really, can you put a price tag on that? And you'll make your significant other happy. They'll feel really special. I've eaten in both of the restaurants I mentioned, and it's genuine 5-star service, and it's just absolutely amazing. It'll leave a lasting impression. Personally, I'm happily single, very happily single, and planning to stay that way. But personally, if say I was seeing someone, my choice would be first class flight on Emirates Airlines to Dubai for Valentine's. That would be lovely. I certainly wouldn't. Or another option, which is quite polar opposite, but quiet time indoors, like in the house together. Yeah, like we're all adults here, so you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, just some private fun, and that would be fantastic. I absolutely loathe going out when everybody else does, meaning it's crowded. Like I said, it creates some kind of stress. I sense energy, so I can sense various different energies all around me. So when people are tense, you kind of pick up on that. So yeah, not a good idea. Anyhow, hopefully that helps. And to those of you who are planning on driving on Valentine's Day, yeah, be mindful of all that and try as much as you can. Well, observing people is fun, but try to block negative energy. No one needs any negativity. But everybody, happy Valentine's Day and have a fantastic week.